it's just an example. Purdue losing to Fresno State is okay. We can still win the Big Ten West. But me,
Billy Napier gets fired. I'm just kidding.
really the best time of the year. I will be seated watching the Red Zone for 7 hours on Sunday. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode back here at Banter. Johnny, James, Tanner. Another electric weekend of college football. Our TikTok comment section is going crazy, yelling at us because if you think about it, it's really my bad because me and Tanner picked Georgia. James picked Texas. We clipped one of James picking Texas. I picked Tennessee, or I picked Alabama. James picked Tennessee. So if we just reverse the clips around, all the old white people that do their selfies like this on TikTok who's saying that we should quit doing sports wouldn't be commenting as much. But regardless, it is very fun. What they don't understand is that every single comment they get pushes us in the algorithm more. So we're going to have like 10,000 views.
And I'm over it. I no longer get that upset when someone.
Well, you don't get it because I run the TikTok, so I get the notifications and I see the 9+ when I go over, and there's no likes. It just says 17 comments, and so that's always fun. But anyway, that's besides the point. We're going to break the games down. We're going to tell you what happened. First, we're going to go over to Austin, Texas. Heard it's a beautiful area. Georgia went in there and did vintage Georgia things in that game. So, I mean, James, we'll go to you first since you got not hammered because you brought up good points. Those people just don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what was your takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, what a game, right? We were texting, all of us were texting the entirety of that game. Those are like the games we were excited for. You know, it wasn't the outcome that I expected, but got to give flowers to Georgia. I mean, holy cow. And I don't think what I said was wrong. Like, when I said Georgia's defense wasn't good, it wasn't up to the standard of national championships that they've been playing at for the last 2 seasons. And my one thing that I did say, and it wasn't in the clip because we talked about the game for a while, was it scares me picking Texas because I didn't think Georgia had put it all together yet. And here's the thing. I still don't think they've done it. But that Georgia defense was ungodly on Saturday night. Very impressive. We don't need to talk too much about that. And for me, at least, I want to talk about Georgia's just ability to control a football game. I mean, their defense was so good and Texas's offense was so bad that Georgia was getting the ball on average at Texas' 40-yard line every drive. One of their 6 touchdowns or one of their 6 scoring drives was longer than 35 yards. Only one of them. Well, they scored 30 points on that defense, whatever it was. And one of them was a drive further than 35 yards. So they were getting great field position. I still have concerns. This was a game of defense versus defense. You got to look at this Texas game on the side of Texas. Texas didn't play a bad game. Like, Texas defensively played a stellar football game. I mean, truthfully. Like, I understand the score is like, okay, they let up a lot of points. They were at the mercy of their offense, just turnover after turnover after turnover. There were 7 turnovers in that game. The defense was unreal on both levels. I think these 2 teams have the same issue, and it's the same issue as quarterback play. I think they have 2 quarterbacks that are more than capable to be very good college quarterbacks, but right now they're not gelling together. It's 2 teams that you could totally see in the national championship. But Johnny had said it before. Johnny said it on the preview. Tanner, you've said it as well. The schedule that Texas played up to this point did not favor Texas in this matchup because Georgia's already played Bama. They've already had to go through that gauntlet. And this was Texas's first showing. And I'm not totally out on Texas, right? I think they got to figure out what Quinn Ewers can and can't do. They got to figure out, is Arch Manning just not going to be very good for them this year? Is it one of those things we got to wait till next year? But defensively, this was a great game. If you like college defense, this was a great game for you because the score doesn't really show how amazing the defenses were. So shout out to Georgia, man. They deserve their flowers. I was wrong. Their defense showed up to play.
Yeah, I would say my main takeaway from the game is that Carson Beck is extremely overrated. I was expecting a big game out of him. Saturday, it didn't happen. Georgia got the win, though. I said this was a welcome to the SEC moment for Texas. I was right. Texas is good. They're a national championship contender, but when you're playing the top dogs in the SEC, they're not used to that brand of football. It's a different brand of football. So welcome to it, Texas. That's what it's like. Georgia just absolutely punched you in the face for 4 quarters. I hope it was nice for you, Texas. Welcome to it. Quinn Ewers overrated as well. But I want to talk about Carson Beck. This dude, he is not going top 5 in the draft. He reminds me so much of Will Levis. I think this guy in the NFL is going to have a career like Will Levis. I think he's a good college quarterback. He gets away with being on a really good team with a lot of talent around him, good defense, good coaching staff. But Carson Beck, I'm really concerned with him moving forward this season for Georgia. Can't really throw that many interceptions and expect to be successful, especially in the 12-team playoff when you're going to need to win 3-4 games. Like, you're not going to get away with throwing 3 picks. Like, it's just not going to happen in that playoff. Impressed with Georgia, though, as a team outside of Carson Beck. I think Georgia's legit. As Nick Saban said, and Nick Saban knows ball, I think one of you guys might have brought it up last week. The best thing that could happen to Georgia was that loss at Bama, because now Georgia is awake. They woke up. They have a chip on their shoulder. They were a team that felt like they're the best team in the country, and then you go lose to Bama. Like, that's something that wakes them up, and this is going to be a dangerous Georgia team moving forward for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So I've watched almost every single Georgia game to completion except for the Clemson game because I was at the Gator game. And every single time I watched it, I'm like, who's number 11 on their D line? Because sometimes I like wonder how, if you're scouting someone, what are you looking for? And so I'm like, who's this? Who's number 11? It was against Kentucky. I'm like, he just looks different. I'm like, oh, maybe he's like a hidden gem for them. And he's like, oh no, like he's going to go top 10 in the draft. 4 sacks. I'm pretty sure he had 3 or 4 sacks in the game. He by himself, Walker, completely took over the game. He was unbelievable. Look, there's things in the SEC that Texas is going to have to adjust to. We talked about it. When's the last time that big of a game was played in Austin, Texas? It's been, a decade, honestly, where you've had a top 5 matchup there. And then, Georgia plays 2 of these games a year at least, just in conference play. I mean, you think about 2 years ago, Tennessee was number 1 in the country. They played them, and they play Alabama. And then it just happens. Even Florida, Georgia every year. It's that rivalry type game. And then you can compare that to Tennessee, Oklahoma. It's whatever. But the thing that scares me with Texas is the inability to run the ball. I think they finished with 29 rushing yards, right at a yard per carry. And I know they're trying to come back and throw the ball a lot, but their top 2 backs got injured in camp. And everyone worried about it for a second and then kind of swept it under the rug, and life went on. And that showed up tonight. They could not run the ball, or not tonight, on Saturday night. They could not run the ball worth anything. And it is very concerning going forward for a Texas fan that you cannot run the ball. Because Quinn Ewers, look, I never got the Quinn Ewers first round. Like, look, he was number 1 quarterback in the country. I get it. Then with the playoff last year, all perfect. Is he a good quarterback? Yes. I mean, what's his ceiling in the NFL? I mean, I don't know. He's our age. So, like, anything is possible. But I was surprised when they pulled him. I'm not going to act like I'm outsmarter than Sark. He knows his team better than I do, but maybe it woke him up a little bit. He played a lot better in the second half. I do want to also talk about Carson Beck. This Georgia team is nowhere near their ceiling. Carson Beck was the SEC Offensive Player of the Year last year. Like, let's not forget that. His ball right now is much better than what he's been playing recently. I don't know if it's because he's dating one of the Caldiver twins, whatever their names are, that he's all distracted or whatever. But I mean, 2 of his interceptions weren't his fault. I mean, the pass interference one that got taken away. We've talked about it enough. Officiating in sports right now, especially in college football,
never been,
is atrocious, and they're not even full-time employees. I mean, in where we're at right now in college football, it's just not okay that is a thing. But Georgia's ceiling, I think, is still so much higher than what it is right now, because Carson Beck at some point, and I hope it's not their next game because they play Florida, but at some point he's going to find their stride. Tanner, I disagree with you a little bit. I don't think Carson Beck's going to be this top 8 quarterback. I think he's better than Will Levis, because Will Levis was atrocious in college, and he got picked in the second round because he had a good pro day and could throw it 60 yards. Carson Beck has already shown at the highest level he can perform. So he has that ability. And once he gets back to that, I think Georgia's going to be unbeatable, because Trevor Etienne completely controlled this game. He finally showed up the first time he really showed up for them. And I mean, shout out to Georgia. There's nothing more we can say. Kirby said it after the game. No one believed in us. And, well, I did. Kirby obviously doesn't watch Backyard Banter, but I believe in them.
I did. Kirby and I are not.
So maybe he did. Maybe he just saw the TikTok. But, like, a heck of a game. I'm not too concerned about Texas because they have a really workable SEC schedule compared to the rest of the SEC schedule. I mean, they go and play Vanderbilt. Like, Vanderbilt's ranked in the top 25, but they're not a top 25 team. I mean, think about teams like they played Mississippi State. Oklahoma barely even has an offense that can complete a pass. So they'll be fine. They'll be in the playoff. But first time since 2007, it's a big year, that there is no undefeated teams in the SEC going into November. That is big time stuff.
Yeah, it just to one more point about Carson Beck. Like, he has 8 interceptions in the last 5 games.
More than he had last year.
Like, it is unreal. Like, sure, the ones that he threw on Saturday, especially the one that got called back, which obviously is being talked about all the time with officiating, and we've said it on here. We've talked about it at all sports. We've talked about the NFL level, the college level, basketball, baseball, football. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's been bad. And so it is what it is. But I just had to point out, like, 8 interceptions in 5 games for a guy who is more than capable to be anybody in the country, because he's playing for the University of Georgia. It was kind of telling, and that's why I raised the question. Like, both of these teams just have a question at quarterback right now, and they're not playing up to the standard that they can. I mean, Mel Kiper has Quinn Ewers as a top 5 quarterback in the country, and it's just like that. It didn't show up on Saturday. Like, it did not. That's not a top 5 quarterback. And if so, thank God the Bears don't need a quarterback in the draft, because yikes, I mean, whatever. So.
But anyway, we'll go to Tenneseee Bama, and I want to start in this game because I got hammered for this game, and rightfully so. I said that Jalen Miller was going to be one of the better players on the field, and there has to be injury-wise something wrong with him because he was atrocious. That is the worst game he's played, even before he got benched at the beginning of last year against South Florida when he played Texas, and they played against Texas, and he was terrible. I mean, just atrocious from Jalen Miller. I mean, how many passes did he errantly miss? 10? I mean, all of his picks, that pick in the red zone, what are we doing? That's like Baker Mayfield level of ineptitude on that throw in the red zone. That was atrocious. That throw at the end of the game, too. I mean, he threw it 2 yards behind him. Just really bad. But the key to this game, Tennessee's defensive line completely took over the game. It was a non-contest. Bama couldn't run the ball. Jalen Milroe didn't have his scrambling ability. I think he ran for like under 20 yards. That's not something Jalen Milroe ever does. With that being said, Nico was awful too. Like, he legitimately made one more throw, and that's all that mattered. But my goodness, I texted in the group chat that he could overthrow North Korea because that's how bad his overthrows are. They're not competitive. I mean, Josh Heupel is a freaking miracle worker. He schemes to get guys wide open, and Nico misses him by like 5 yards. And I saw someone tweet, he's like, man, at least he's not throwing to the other team. I don't give a damn. There's 5 yards of separation. Put it on the guy. I mean, it is unreal. But I will say that one touchdown pass that he threw, I'll give him his props. That was an unbelievable throw. It's like you see it, right? You see the big arm, you see the arm talent, you see his ability to move. But that one throw was special, and he did hit one of the deep balls. But Tennessee got shut out for the 3rd straight game at halftime, and they should have been up 24-7 at halftime. It is just unbelievable. But look, what takes this game away from being a classic or anything like that, there were so many penalties. It almost got to the point where it was unwatchable. I don't think any of them were like egregious. This doesn't go to the officiating problem in college football. It's just, it wasn't pretty football. Like when they played 2 years ago in Neyland, it was pretty football. It was Bryce Young, Hendon Hooker, Jalen Hyatt, like going at it. That was big time football. This was just that good old fashioned rivalry. I will say, man, Neyland's a top 5 environment in college football. That place was rocking. The cigar smoke was awesome. Just an incredible scene there. So, like, props to Tennessee. Dylan Sampson, that might be the best running back in the country outside of Gentry, obviously, but just such a big-time performance from Tennessee, especially Josh Heupel, because, look, Nico was very much a work in progress. And maybe by the time he's a senior, he's going to be all-world and hitting those throws because he's a redshirt freshman. He is young. But until he shows me that he hits those throws consistently against anyone other than Chattanooga, I'm not going to sit here and say that Tennessee is a national championship contender because I do not. I think this is a really nice win. I think they're going to be in the playoff, and I think they're a really good team. Tennessee is now a national championship contender, and obviously Alabama it isn't either. But man, there's just something about rivalry games, regardless of how bad it is. It's always so fun to watch.
Yeah. For Bama here, I look at this loss from the perspective that, like, the fans in Tuscaloosa and throughout the state of Alabama and really across the country, like, welcome back to reality. Your program is no longer feared. Nobody fears you. Nick Saban is gone. Nick Saban is the only reason you guys had success and had a dynasty. You're lucky that you had the greatest head coach of all time in your program, but I don't think Bama's ever going to get back to that point to where they're going to be, bumping out national championships left and right. Like, Coach DeBoer's a good coach, but he's not someone who's going to sustain national championship level play year in and year out. It's going to be one of those things where he's going to have to build a team for a year or two, bring in pieces, and hopefully get lucky with a good SEC schedule, put it together for 1 year. But I just Bama's not the same. I don't look at this Bama program anymore and look at them and be like, oh, they're playing at Tennessee. Bama's going to win that game, because the past Bama teams with Nick Saban, they win that game 15 out of 16 times statistically based on the last 16 matchups. Like it's not the same for Bama. They are no longer a program that is feared in the SEC because Nick Saban is gone, and it's weird as a non-Bama fan to see it and to adjust to it. But going to the game, I mean, Jalen Milroe couldn't have played worse. Like the dude just did not have a good game. Granted, he didn't have much help from his offensive line or run game, but I mean, Ryan Williams, I would say, is one of the few players in Bama that showed up to play for 4 quarters. So shout out to him. I mean, he's 17 years old doing it under the brightest lights on the biggest stage. So, I mean, that's pretty incredible. But for me, Pierce for Tennessee, he should be the first pick in the draft. He is unbelievable. He's going to win. He's going to be the best defensive player in the NFL in 2 years. He is probably the greatest edge rusher I've ever seen in college football. I mean, nobody can protect him in the passing game. He does whatever he wants. He is bigger than the offensive lineman, and he's way quicker and faster. That dude is unbelievable. So I just wanted to point that out. That guy is a killer.
Yeah, I have two, James, before you go, Rick, I want to say, I do want to bring this up. Kalen DeBoer got hired in the window before spring ball where his guys were allowed to transfer, but he wasn't allowed to bring anyone in. It's a really tough situation. I just think Bama standards here, and it should be here. But I'm going to need to see a full year of Kalen DeBoer, losing 2 games in conference again next year before I completely punt on him, because let's not forget 2 weeks ago, this guy was undefeated against Dan Lanning, Kirby Smart, and whoever else you want to name. So I want to pump the brakes a little bit. And I mean, Florida must have a hell of an O-line, because James Pierce didn't do anything against Florida. I just want to say that maybe Florida's a bit like that. Hey, big win against Kentucky, James. One more win, baby. One more win, right over left. But I do agree with you. It wasn't just James Pierce. Yeah, it wasn't just James Pierce. It was their entire defensive line. I mean, it was incredible the way that they were just swarming the ball, completely took over the game.
Yeah, I mean, and let's not discredit. I mean, Alabama's got one of the best lines like in the country. I mean, they're 5
supposed to be. I don't know what the hell happened.
Correct, but like we were talking about it, I said it in the group chat. Like, man, Tennessee's getting whatever they want on that line, and so yeah. Here's the thing. It is October 22nd, right? We're filming this on October 22nd, and we can say Alabama's not going to be in the SEC championship game. Like, that's crazy, right? And here's the other thing. They have to win out to get into the playoff. Like, a 9-3 Bama team still has a sliver of a chance, but they need other things to happen. A 10-2 Alabama gets in with a win over Georgia, but their schedule is not crazy. Right, it's not unreal.
They go to LSU. That's going to be their toughest game.
That's the game you circle, right? You're not circling the game against Mercer. You're circling the game at LSU. So if you're Kalen DeBoer, and I agree with what you said, Johnny. I think the athletic staff, I think everyone in that organization is going to take into account the fact is he was kind of a late hire, right? And so I don't think. Even if he goes 9-3, I think he's still going to be the coach for the Tide.
The buyout's going to be unbelievable. Exactly. He's going to be there next year.
Well, exactly. And I'm kind of excited to see what his transfer portal looks like at Bama. But it was incredible. I picked Tennessee because I thought Nico was going to have a chance to make a ton of throws, and he had a chance. He didn't, but he had a chance. And Bama, again, their secondary is just not very good. I'm going to get clipped all the time by just saying these SEC defenses aren't very good, but you can highlight that Alabama secondary is just not very good. They have plenty of talent. They have plenty of stars next to their name, but they're not playing well right now. And Nico could have literally set an SEC record Saturday night, like just completing the basic throws of the guys who are wide open. And that's the thing. When he rolls out and he makes those unreal throws, you're like, okay, why can't you just hit the guy running in the middle of the field? But I will say, we talked with the flags. I'm 90% sure it was the same crew that called the Ole Miss LSU game, and that game had so many flags. So my one issue, and I said it to you guys about the Georgia-Texas game, these games are taking way too long. Like, I love college football, don't get me wrong, but like we got games to watch on the West Coast too that start at 9:30. And when I'm sitting there at 6:30 start against Georgia Texas, and it's 10:15, and there's still 8 minutes left in the Georgia Texas game, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, the games are taking way too long because some crews in the SEC and some crews in the Big 12 and whatever, they just call completely different games. And so it's frustrating. It's got to be taken account. I mean, there's way too much money on the line. Like, if I was a betting man and I bet on a certain team and a play was reversed because of and they reversed it the right way. It was the correct call, right? I'm glad they reversed it, but you can't do that, right? You can't do that. And the way the college football, I was listening to the Joel Klatt podcast. He said that college football needs to do what the XFL does, and I think the XFL has like one unlimited challenge where you can challenge any call. Like, it could be a holding call you can challenge. It could be a pass interference call that you can challenge. You get one of them a game. Even if you get it right, you lose it. But like, that's something that needs to be implemented in sports. I like what he said, but obviously that call has been all over social media, so we don't even need to highlight that too much. But I will just say, like, the line for Tennessee's, like, their defensive line is unreal, and Pierce literally was manhandling not real human beings on the Alabama line, because Alabama's line is unreal too. And 3 of the 5 might be on NFL teams next year. But it was just an incredible game for Tennessee's defense, and Nico stepped up and made a big throw when he had to. So
yeah, James, you're talking about betting money. Think about the money that the boosters are now investing in the transfer portal. Yeah. And you think about a team like Ole Miss, that's a window program that's like, this is their year. After this year, they're going to be not screwed, but for the next 3 years, they're not going to be what they're going to be. And, you're right. Officiating is different each conference, and the NCAA is too inept to do anything about it. And, like, I don't know what's going to happen. Something needs to happen.
Just pay them. Just pay the officials enough
not
money.
Full-time employees.
Full-time job.
Blows my mind.
At the level of the SEC, the Big 12, the ACC, and the Big 10, you can afford, as a conference, to hire however many guys to be on a crew. And you know what? I'll volunteer first. I'll quit my job right now, and I'll become a SEC official.
Yeah, hold on. Hey, it's pretty easy. You just got to say holding 76 offense. Yeah. Because it's just
I love when I don't like this. I like this one, like the side, like holding offense number 67. Right. It's a 10-yard penalty. Yeah, I can do it. So I'll quit my job right now and do it. If they need a guinea pig, I'll become a full-time employee for the SEC. It's fine.
I mean, but their TV contracts are $1 billion. It's not really good. But anyway, James, you got another top 10. Bring it up for us. In the meantime, this is another sneaky weekend of college football coming up this weekend. No one wants to talk about it. There are 2 undefeated teams left in the SEC. They play each other this weekend in College Station, LSU and A&M. Oh, there's a lot of us there.
Can you even see? Oh, shit.
Oh, we're seeing your screen. I don't think you have it on.
I got it. I'll figure it out. Give me a sec.
There it goes.
Is that right?
Yeah, we can see you here. Yeah, make it full screen. There you go.
There we go.
There you go. All right, James, take us to the top 10.
Yeah, man. A little motion. Honorable mention, we got 3 of them now. Still putting Iowa State in my honorable mention because talk about just a not inspiring football team. I understand they're 7-0, but they're like the Miami for me. And I think they're 2 good football teams, but not inspiring wins. Like, they're not taking care of business like I want them to. And again, this is my top 10, so it's not the AP, so I don't determine who makes the playoff. Notre Dame, obviously, in there. Indiana, what a win against Nebraska. So give them their props. 9, BYU. What an incredible win for the Cougs. Just late night magic. I love it. It was a great win. Clemson took care of business again. I think they're the best team in the ACC. Again, that one loss, you can't judge them for it, right? Tennessee, again, big win. They swapped for me for Bama. I had Bama at 7, I believe. So they just fill in that spot. LSU, I have them pretty high. I understand the ranking for LSU is a little high, but again, you look at their loss. I understand they lost to a USC team who's been uninspiring, but it was a week 1 game, and we all said it after we filmed the pod. We were like, maybe we're wrong. Maybe this USC team can compete in the Big Ten. Obviously, we were right in that prediction. But LSU, they got it rolling. Texas, they dropped to 5 for me. Again, I still think they're a national champion contender. In fact, I would probably have them above Penn State, but I can't right now because of Quinn Ewers' inability right now. And Penn State just they have that win, and Texas doesn't. Ohio State and Penn State remain the same, 3-4. Georgia, what an incredible comeback win! Just we obviously talked about this game. I think Georgia's the second best team in the country. Oregon, they got a big one this week. They got a big win against Purdue, and then they host the Illini this week. So big one for the Ducks. But yeah, this is the top 10. I'm interested to see what you guys think about it.
Yeah, I think if you're going to have Notre Dame and Indiana and Iowa State in the honorable mention, it's pretty ridiculous to not have A&M in the same tier as them. I think A&M deserves that honorable mention because
Notre
A&M's
Dame
at least
beat 'em.
played people, and Indiana hasn't played people. Same with Iowa State. Very, very frustrated with Miami being at 10. This is actually a little fun little stat here. Miami's on track to have one of the greatest offensive seasons in college football history. They're averaging like 50 points a game. 2019 LSU, like that's what Miami reminds me of. I think Miami is a top 5 team in the country. Like you can talk about their defense, maybe their schedule's been like, it doesn't matter. When you're scoring 50 points a game and you have a guy like Cam Ward that can do what he does, that is a national championship contender, a top 5 team in the country. They'll probably end up losing now that I said that, but I think Miami deserves a little bit more respect, and same with Texas A&M. But the rest of it, I have no complaints with. Another good job by Mr. Keck.
Well, I personally hate that BYU's number 9. I don't. They're not a good team. They I'm saying in perspective of Big Ten, SEC, and this is we talked about in the group chat and how they're going to rank these teams when it comes to the 12-team playoff. Because if you literally look at the last playoff or 2 playoffs ago, they went undefeated teams, 1 lost teams, 2 lost teams, 3 lost teams, and they went down like that. And are we going to do it? Who's most deserving? Is BYU deserving of a top 10 ranking? Yeah. Are they one of the 10 best teams in the country? No. If A&M and BYU played right now, A&M would win by 20. Same with Ole Miss, and we all think that, and they're not ranked there. So we talked about it a lot. It's going to be really interesting when the first college football playoff ranking comes out, where they rank these teams, because I think only one Big 12 team should make the playoff, and if Miami loses or Clemson loses again, I think only one ACC team should make the playoff. There's just so much just atrocious football in those conferences that they're not even in the same tier as the SEC and Big Ten. And even lower levels of the Big Ten is atrocious too. Because even if you look at Mississippi State as the worst team in the SEC, they're competent. Like they compete with Georgia. They competed with Texas and A&M. But it's just really interesting to me how that eventually is going to shake out. But Tanner, I push back a little bit on Miami of being a top 5 team. You can't be a top 5 team when you're giving up 45 points to Louisville and whatever they gave up to Cal, 38 points to Cal, or whatever.
Louisville's got Jeff Brom, a great offensive play caller, so I give him a pass.
Yeah, they do. But who does Cal have? Or
the running back is really good.
So one player, if you're a top 5 team, one player at Cal Berkeley shouldn't take over a game like they did. So I mean, Miami should have 2 losses. Let's not forget about this. Miami should have 2 losses. And, it is what it is. Cam Ward is unbelievable. 2019 LSU is 100% right, Tanner. They might end up being last year's LSU, have an insane quarterback and have a defense that's just incredibly atrocious. But, James, all in all, I think you did a good job.
Well, I appreciate it. And I will say, I do have – the reason I have the Cougs so high is I'm inspired by him. I love –
Provo was rocking. I'll tell you what. Provo was about 25 minutes from my apartment. And Provo was rocking.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm you, I gotta go. You gotta find tickets to.
Yeah, I was working that day, or else I would have been there. One of my coworkers was
it's the coolest mascot ever. I mean that
backdrop, it's just glorious. But
it's perfect, and I totally agree. In what Tanner said, A&M, they probably should be in that honorable mention. I don't disagree with that. It's just I didn't want to have 4 honorable mentions, and Notre Dame beat A&M. Indiana, number 1 scoring offense in the country.
Crazy what they're
doing. And Iowa State, you can't not put them there. So that's why they're at 14. I will say they're at 14. That honorable mention there. There's 4 spots there. And what you said, Johnny, to Tanner's point, is this Miami team does remind me a lot of LSU last year. Good Lord.
ACC. I mean, that's the only difference.
They're going to put up 50, but, hey, they might give up 48. Like they're gonna win by a touchdown. And what you said about Louisville, like Louisville put up 24 on Virginia. So I'm not gonna buy in on this Jeff Brom whatever. But I agree with what you're saying. So
We'll see. But again, it's going to be really interesting when they rank these teams. Is it most deserving, or is it the 12 best? Because last year they showed it was the best, and then every year before that it was most deserving. So it's
there's
going
gonna be a lot of undefeated teams. Like there's gonna not a lot, but there's gonna be a good amount of 11-1 teams.
a lot of one-loss teams.
That play in the ACC and the Big 12.
Yep.
And you're gonna ask yourself, well, are they better than a 3-loss or a 2-loss?
And the answer should be no. And the answer should be no.
The answer is no.
I think if you're a 2-loss Big 10 or SEC team, you should be in 100% over a 1-loss Big 12 or ACC team, unless the ACC team is Clemson because their 1 loss is Georgia. But with that being said, let's move over to do a little bit of NFL. We have to talk about the Bucs. One of the most devastating losses last night, not because of the loss of the Ravens. I think the Ravens are the best team in football. It's because of what happened with that. Obviously, Mike Evans is out until the bye after Week 12. And I talked about this stretch that the Bucs had. And it started with they played the Eagles, then they played the Falcons, they played the Saints, they played the Ravens last night, they got the Falcons. This is the biggest game of the season. This weekend they play the Falcons. If the Bucs can somehow win this game, when they play Kansas City and the San Francisco next 2 weeks, it doesn't matter because they got the tiebreaker with Atlanta. And then their second half of the season, they play like the Giants, Raiders, and Carolina twice. So this next 3 games, if they can find a win here, I think they're going to be fine. But look, obviously, everyone knows about Chris Godwin. And when I saw the Chris Godwin news, I was watching the game. When I watched Chris Godwin go down, my immediate thought was, wow, the Bucs are going to miss him. Is Chris Godwin was such an unbelievable human that is just so bad to happen to. You guys know they talk about the broadcast, the stuff that happened in Tampa the last 3 weeks with all the hurricanes and whatnot. Chris Godwin was the first one. He put out $50,000, $50,000 donation. I mean, that's just Mike Evans did too. They got charities there. It is just gut wrenching to see. And I see people as like, why is he in the game? Baker Mayfield went up and said they wanted to be in the game. Like that's just competitors. I'm not mad that he was in the game. There's this makeup rule that says you're only allowed 2 onside kicks in the fourth quarter. That's not true. You can onside kick it as many times as you want in the fourth quarter. So like him being in the game is besides the point. I'm mad at Todd Bowles because he got outclassed, not by Jim Harbaugh, by Todd Monken, who was the Georgia OC 2 years ago, went to the Ravens last year. Playing soft shell zone against Lamar Jackson doesn't work. And now you look at the Buccaneers roster, they're missing their best corner, they're missing the 2 best receivers. Vita Vea is not 100%, and you just go, and they're missing their second best linebacker outside of Levante David. And it's just continuous things. When Tampa Bay is healthy and at their peak, they're a Super Bowl contender. And it's just really frustrating to see this team start to fall apart like that. And then the other issue is Baker Mayfield. The reason why Baker Mayfield is not an elite level quarterback, I think times he can be elite. The reason why he's not a top 8 quarterback in the NFL is because he has 2 to 3 games a year that look like what they did last night. And he just tries to put on the cape and tries to do too much way too often. You can look at even little things. On the interception, he had 10 seconds to throw. Throw the ball away. Like, it's not there. Aikman saying, oh, he didn't see him. What do you mean he didn't see him? He was standing right in front of him. I get he was covering the flat in front of him, but you just got to know when to take your losses. There's even small things like when he scrambled and got hit short of the first down, Kate Otten was wide open. He just went off his first read and started running around like the guy with his head cut off. I'm not going to give Baker any hate. I think he's one of the best leaders in the NFL, and guys rally and play hard for him. But there's a reason why he was bouncing team to team, and there's a reason why the Bucs got him for a discount. It's because this was one game he had like this year. He'll have one more, but next week he'll probably throw for 3 touchdowns and no picks. So it's just you take the good and the bad with it, and you just hope when you get in the playoffs it can be better. But much more concerned about the Tampa Bay defense. Everyone's saying that they should go trade for Cooper Kupp. They need to go get another edge rusher because they do not get pressure consistently on the quarterback. And Lamar Jackson did whatever he wanted last night. Just a really disappointing defensive performance. And then it just pounds on top of that what happened with Mike Evans. He should have never been playing in the first place. He was limping during warmups. You just got to – it's week 7. You got to know the situation, and you can't play guys like that, especially when Mike's, in year 11. It's just, it's just not good stuff. But, look, the Bucs in one night went from a Super Bowl contender to a low-end playoff team. And it's, it's a tough one to swallow.
Yeah, I would say that my takeaway from the game, obviously the injuries suck. I think Baker Mayfield reminds me of Jay Cutler. I see so much Jay Cutler and Baker Mayfield.
I
It
like
is unbelievable. I don't know what you guys think, but like I'm
I
just
would
sitting there. I'm
never
like,
have gotten there, but I love it.
I think he's a little bit more mobile than Jay Cutler, I will
Yeah.
say, but it's not terrible. And I will say one more thing: Godwin just dislocated his ankle. There's a major difference between a dislocated ankle and a compound fracture. I will say that. So just a little bit of good news there that it wasn't the Aiden Hutchinson injury. It was
Yeah.
just the dislocated ankle is obviously still awful and graphic or whatever, but big difference between a compound fracture when the bone's out and in that. But keep going, T.
yeah. I just wanted to say that Baker reminds me of Jay Cutler. I think the Bucs are a good team, but I think the injuries that they have stacked on top of the upcoming schedule is going to probably put a damper on this season that they had going. I think they can still make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to put themselves in a position to get a home playoff game. I think the Falcons are healthier, and at this point in the season, that's kind of what matters. In the home stretch of the season, but just talking NFC here, I want to ask you guys this because this is something I've been thinking about. If you were to give me your top 5 Super Bowl contenders out of the NFC, or just top 5 teams to win the NFC right now, who would it be? Because the NFC is pretty gnarly right now.
I would say Lions, Packers are probably up there. I don't think the Vikings go to the Super Bowl, so I'm not going to put them in that realm. Same with like Washington. I don't think the Commanders can win a Super Bowl, so I don't even think it was that. I like for Atlanta. I think the most hot and cold team in the NFL. They played awful against Seattle on Sunday, absolutely awful. So it's Tanner, you're right. I mean, there was no one team, and you look at Detroit. Like Tampa went into Detroit and really kind of controlled most of that game. So I think it's wide open. I think the Lions are one. I think I would put Packers. I'm probably missing one, top 3, and then I'm just trying to go through NFC West. Like I'd still put the 49ers in there, even though they're not playing that good a ball right now. But you're talking about top 5 teams in the NFC. Like 49ers are there in some capacity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's hard. I will say I think it's hard to get to 5. Like
Yeah.
when you ask me a question of give me 5 teams that can win the Super Bowl out of the NFC, I'm struggling, and I'm going to put a 3 and 4 Niners there at 5, maybe even 4, and that's just to give you 5 because the Niners again riddled with injury, riddled. Like, oh my goodness, I feel so terrible. I hate when injuries happen, especially for just in general.
I will say they never should have re-signed
better.
Brandon Ayuk. That's going to kill their cap going forward.
Well,
I mean,
there you go. Yeah, good job. But I mean, you look at the NFC. To answer your question, Tanner, out of the NFC East, I'm going to pick the Eagles. Okay, and I'm not inspired by that pick. They're not 1. I'm not putting them at 1. Out of the NFC North, I don't know, 4 teams. I mean, are there 4 teams? Like, are they
the Bears will not win the Super Bowl, and neither will the Vikings. I'll put that to the.
If I say the Bears can win the Super Bowl, I should say the 49ers can. But, dude, I'm not picking anybody at the NFC South. Atlanta still doesn't know what they're doing. I understand they're healthy, but they don't know what they're doing. Like, I'm telling you, there's 4 teams in the NFC North. Like, the Vikings are the undefeated, and they're not even the best team in that division. Like,
I don't even think they're the second best team in that division.
well, I don't think the Packers are. I don't think the Packers are unreal. I
don't know. The Packers defense just went out and shut down CJ Stroud.
Yeah, they did. And the Packers defense is very good. Like the defense in the NFC North, ungodly. Like it really is. And I'm just saying, I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to tell you that the Bears are in the top 5 to win the Super Bowl. But I'm just telling you right now, it's not a great year for Bears fans because, like, it is a great year for Bears fans. Let me rephrase. But, like, why do we have to be good when this is the best division we've ever seen? Like, this goes back to, like, I can't even think of a year where it's
the NFC West when they had, like, Kaepernick and Russ. Like, that was pretty loaded. The NFC North, when they had Big Ben was still there.
Usually bye weeks this early usually bye weeks your team doesn't lose. Well, the Bears lost this week because, like, we're the only team without 5 wins now, and it's like what hurts is we should have 5 wins. But anyway, to answer that question, Tanner, Eagles. If I had to answer Atlanta out of that division, Lions for sure, and if I had to pick the West, I'd go Niners. But I don't know.
It's tough, and that's what makes the Bucs situation now even more tough because if you asked me before last night, it's clearly the Bucs. Even though they lost to Atlanta, they should have won that game. So
in the first quarter, I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Bucs
are going to run away with this game.
People want to talk about the Ravens dominating the game. They dominated the game from the second quarter. They scored 34 straight points. That is unbelievable. And it happened. The Bucs had a chance to put a stranglehold on the game. And there's a holding call on Tristan Wirfs that was not a holding. That was his first holding in a year and a half. First of all, that's unbelievable in itself. But just a stranglehold in that game. And then, okay, you kick a field goal, they score a touchdown. Another chance to put a stranglehold in the game, and Baker throws a pick, and the game's over at that point. You just know. And it is really tough where you go from the high of the first quarter to where the game ended up. But to the Bears' point, I mean, it's a long season, man. We're in week 8. We got 9 more weeks of this. We're not even at that. We're not even at
the
half.
Bears haven't even played one divisional game,
which is crazy.
It's just
I the reason I asked that question is I was sitting here the other day and I was thinking, well, like the Niners, because me personally, I don't trust the 49ers one bit right now. I don't think Brock Purdy looks very good. They have a lot of injuries. They don't look like the same team they've been in the previous years. I'm kind of out on the 49ers right now, and I don't trust Jalen Hurts over there in Philly. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I think like the Bears technically are a top 5 contender to win the NFC as of right now. Just because I would have the Bears ahead of the Niners right now. I know it's crazy to say that. I would have the Bears ahead of the Eagles. Like, I think the NFC North has the 4 best chances to win the NFC right now, which is crazy.
But at the end of the season, but if you think about look, the Bears probably aren't going to win the North unless something crazy happens. But, okay, that means they're a 6 or 7 seed. That probably means you're going to San Francisco for a playoff game, for example, or in something in that capacity. But
which I'm fine with.
But yeah, anyway, everything kind of goes crazy. I will say, I gotta jet out of here. I gotta go. But Tanner, if you want to fire off your top 5 teams real quick, and then we can get out of here.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do it. I'm gonna work my way from 5 to 1. I'm gonna start at 5 with the Green Bay Packers. Defense looked incredible. They absolutely shut down C.J. Stroud. What's very scary about the Packers right now, and I understand this 100% as a Bears fan, is Jordan Love has missed 2 games, and he leads the NFL in interceptions, and the Packers are 5-1.
He's literally Brett Favre. I mean, how about with the game on the line, he throws a off his back foot to the that's unbelievable.
I hate that guy so much. God, I hate him so much.
That's what's scary about the Packers is Jordan Love really hasn't played well, and they are one of the best teams in the NFL. So I have the Packers in there at 5. At 4, I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings. Still only lost by 1 possession to a very good Detroit team. The only problem is Sam Darnold's your quarterback. That limits your ceiling. But we need to stay tuned on Minnesota because Matt Stafford, there's some news that he might end up in Minnesota, which could change things. That could change things for that team. At 3, I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, you could have them at 1 or 2. I wouldn't disagree with you. Love Lamar. They can run.
I'll tell you what, major questions in their secondary, though. I mean, yes. Major questions. Number 1 against the run, second to last against the pass. I mean, they major questions on that defense.
Kyle Hamilton is the only above-average defender they have.
And Marlon Humphrey, but he's hurt right now.
Yes. At 2, I'm going to go with Detroit Lions. Jared Goff looks really good. What did I say? Last February.
Your own quarterback
has 14 games in a dome. That is dangerous.
Unreal. It's so stupid.
It's dangerous. It's an incredible stat, but the Lions are the second best team in the NFL as of right now, according to me, and the Chiefs are number 1. I don't think I have to explain that.
Negative. And Patrick Mahomes sucks. That's the thing. It pisses me off. Travis Kelce hasn't scored a touchdown.
I'll tell you what, he's throwing to freaking deck chairs. They don't have any receivers, especially because Juju got hurt.
Winning football games. Their offensive coordinator sucks too.
I never would have thought that Kansas City would be a defensive first team. Their defense is unbelievable. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Give them their flowers.
You want to know why?
Incredible.
You want to know why they keep winning despite this offensive struggles? Championship DNA. That is why they keep winning.
Yeah. It helps.
They make the big plays when they need to make the big plays.
Yeah. There it goes. Anyway, you guys made it this far. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back with you later in the week. But if you made it this far, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
Peace.